I'm resident of Colwood for YouTube. Joel Sains. That's my buddy Gordon Dymowski. That's my buddy Alan Gallant. We're here to talk the movie Dog Soldiers, and I almost mispronounced that, and that's okay. Uh, fuck. This movie is really, really interesting. It starts out with these two campers, two lovers who are going camping in Scotland in the wilderness, and they're having a good old time. They're getting ready to have sex, but all of a sudden, you know, a werewolf attacks. The boy pulls out the girl, and the guy gets pulled out, and it's really, really interesting. Then you get a sequence where there's a soldier who's going through training, in not in the it's in the same area, but not exactly in the same spot that people were camping in. Um, and his commanding officer wants him to execute a dog. Yes, a dog. What a heartless bastard, right? And does the soldier execute the dog? No. But his commanding officer does, that bastard. And
Liam Cunningham. Yeah, he was pretty good at this.
Guys, I've got so many questions. Number one, Gordon, you first, what did you think of the opening of this movie?
Well, I think I liked it. I think it's setting up a couple of things we need to know about this film. One, that it takes place in England, but it's also about taking it's a different take on the werewolf movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because the intro scene is your typical, you're in the woods and haha, werewolf. But the scene with the military officers, what we learn later is those officers are black ops. They're special ops. They're not regular soldiers. And that, the Game of Thrones guy shooting the dog, it's less about being mean and more about telling their trainee or the guy who couldn't, there are issues like this guy can't do it for some reason. Maybe he's a coward. Maybe he's like, you kill the dog. No, he's not going to. And then when we find out later what happens to the commanding officer, it's this weird kind of poetic justice.
It is. It's total karma. It's total karma.
Yeah.
This cast is amazing. I mean, it's a really, really good cast. It's a lot of people that you've seen, but maybe didn't know the names of because they typically are doing character roles. Sean Pertwee, of course, playing the hard-boiled sergeant, was excellent, I thought. Kevin McKidd, who was also featured in Rome, the HBO series, was really good. And, of course, Liam Cunningham from Game of Thrones. And Emma Cleasby was very good, too, I thought. She provided some interesting, yes, that too. But she also provided some interesting plot twists in it, as did Liam Cunningham as Captain Ryan as well. I thought it was really well done. And it was also, it's reminiscent of a lot of horror films, as in they get trapped in a house, and the forces of evil are all around them kind of thing. This was much more literally incendiary than some horror films. I mean, whoever had to deal with firearms and explosives and all of that stuff really had to work overtime to make sure it was a safe shoot, I'm sure, because there was a lot of that stuff, an awful lot of that stuff.
And that's why I have some development stuff for you guys. So in 1995, director Neil Marshall pitched to co-producer Keith Bell his idea of a low-budget soldiers versus werewolves film. The filmmakers were introduced to the Victor Film Company as a sales agent who introduced them to producer Christopher Figg. The project was later taken to AFM, where producer David E. Allen became interested in the project after seeing artwork and the script. Production designer Simon Bowles created models of the house for Marshall to plan and structure where to set up cameras and where characters would run for climb onto the next set. For the exterior set of the house, only the front door portion was built early on and is the only part used in the film. Dog Soldiers was produced by the Kismet Entertainment Group, the Noel Gay Motion Picture Company, the Victor Film Company, and the Carousel Picture Company, with the support of the Limerick Film Fund. In addition to the credits in the info box, the costume designer is Ulla Simon. The casting directors are Jeremy Zimmerman and Andrea Clark. The special makeup, animatronics, and digital visual effects are by the company Image FX, and the physical effects supervisor and stunt coordinator is Harry Wissenhahn. In the United States, the film premiered as a Sci-Fi Pictures telefilm on the Sci-Fi Channel. Why am I not surprised?
No, I'm not either. Actually, that was during the earlier era. Well, it was about 10 years into Sci-Fi. It was around 2002, 2003. When this film was made and came out.
2003.
Yeah. I think a lot of it was shot, at least the exteriors were shot in Scotland, and I guess some in England as well. There's definitely that scene at the beginning of it. You see the Scottish Highlands and all of that sort of thing. That's definitely Scotland. The Barrens and the high country is, and it's again. This is one of those movies where the environment is a character.
Mm-hmm.
It really contributes to the mood and tenor of the whole thing.
Yeah. This has what I love about this movie is it has a very Predator feel, in a lot of ways. But I also think that in every way, it doesn't try to clone Predator, because number one, you're using werewolves. Number two, Black Ops are not the guy who did not shoot the dog. They are shocked to learn that they're going up against werewolves. The one commanding officer who did shoot the dog, that SOB, he's like, there was only supposed to be one. There was only supposed to, there wasn't just one.
Yeah.
I like how they're giving away that little plot twist there as he's
And
laying there.
Yeah, and it doesn't come full circle until they interrogate him in the house, and that's when okay, so this is what's going on, because it was a fact finding mission, and they were trying to capture one of them. So.
Yeah, and the group that's led by Sean Pertwee isn't even out there for like military reasons. It's just war games, because they go from blank ammunition to live ammunition, and there's this great kind of, as the movie progresses, this kind of three-way tension between, you've got Pertwee's, your traditional British Army, which is very working class, very tough, suck it up, deal with it. The way that Patrick and I talk to Joel all the time, because we know it'll help him. You've got Liam Cunningham's character, who's more the Black Ops kind of, they think they're tough. He's the kind of guy who would shoot a dog. I mean,
right.
There you go. And
they're a bit sociopathic in their mission. It's anything to accomplish the mission.
Right. And then you've got the actual werewolves who are just like, we're just here to hunt. That's it. So it's this great, it's not your traditional werewolf goes boogity, 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 and people die.
No, it's, as we learn later, it's a family culture. It's a family, and they're in their house, the other 29 days of the month or whatever, they're in their house. So that's an interesting twist too. The family that slays together, which has been done in other films, in a generalized kind of way. I thought of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a sort of an odd, not, tightly connected way, but in a sort of a general way.
Did you see the one on Netflix?
No.
It's good. It's good. You should check it out. Good movie. It better come to DVD soon, Netflix. Soon. Okay? It probably won't. It's a good watch. But this movie, when the girl picked them up, the soldiers, that is, I'm thinking, oh, wait a second, that's the girl from the beginning. Like, what the hell? Like, that's when I first watched this, I'm thinking, wait, didn't she die? And then it's like, oh, wait, she was bit. Oh, no. So she just became a werewolf.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, God, they're so screwed. This
The whole
movie,
thing, you kind of don't know the rules of these werewolves, although they follow sort of the traditional general rules that you get in television and film. That when somebody's bit and they survive, they're going to become a lycanthrope. But you don't know that for sure at the beginning of this. You don't know what the rules of these werewolves are.
I did.
Yeah.
Here's what's weird about this, because when I went back and watched this, I couldn't help but think of another Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, The Next Generation. And if you've ever watched that one, the Sawyer family is very Larry Curly Moe in that. They're very slapstick. They're like fighting each other. They're wrestling around with each other. They're almost fighting amongst themselves. And it almost like, I don't know, to me, it's almost like the werewolves would have did that if the humans wouldn't have been around. It's like, this movie's a trip. It really is, but it's a fun trip.
Yeah, you never see them as a human family, but obviously that's what they were most of the time when they were on the hunt and when the moon was full. So
yeah, and the moon is full. I like how one of my favorite scenes is the shot of the woods when you see the werewolf sort of amongst the trees. It's a really cool shot. The house does look good. So, guys, what did you think of how the werewolves looked? Gordon?
I think I like the fact that they were never seen in full light.
Yeah.
They were always hidden by shadows because you needed that. It gave them a little bit more power, a little bit more threat. Whereas I think if you had seen them, like, if there was like a day shot, you go, no, looks cheap.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to be creative and intelligent about how you present things when you're on a budget, for sure. But I thought they did a fine job of that.
I like how when we get our first sort of attack on a soldier, it's the commanding officer who shot the dog, and they do the vision in black and white. I was not, when I first watched this many years ago, I was not expecting that, and I loved it. Because it's such a different contrast. It's like, what if these animals did see differently than us, or these people who became werewolves and they were in their werewolf form, they saw differently than us. And I like how, too, we don't see a first person perspective from them in human form. So they leave that a question mark. Do they see it in black and white as humans, or don't they? We don't know. I like that. It leaves an unanswered question.
It also separates their point of view from the points of view of anybody else to have that black and white thing. And it reminds me, I think they did that in Wolfen too. They did something different in terms of the perspective. It might not have been black and white, but it was something that was different. And of course, in Predator, their perspective is this sort of heat-seeking thing that they use, and so you know that it's well defined that that's the creature looking in. So.
Yeah, and it's a very inexpensive way to connote the sense that these creatures have night vision. You use black and white film, and maybe because there's a nice graininess to it that I really like, that didn't feel like added on. It felt very organic, and I think that adds to the threat.
And they can do day shooting, which is cheaper to do in the black and white too, and it would still look like you say night vision. It would have that look to it. So
you guys have seen the awesome movie that is Predator too, right? I mean,
yes.
There you go. Nice movie. Really, really fun. With this movie, I like how the girl's like driving them in their car. She takes them to the house, and you guys are right. We do get the information from from the officer who shot the dog there. Got some filming here. Principal photography was originally scouted and planned to commence in the Isle of Man due to its tax rebate States, but the idea fell through. Manitoba was later considered as a filming location due to tax reasons, but the
Canada,
idea
Manitoba.
collapsed. Yeah, it collapsed as well. The film was shot in Luxembourg due to tax deals and having access to crew and student facilities provided by a company based in Luxembourg. Snow affected the set occasionally, which delayed filming schedules. Not shocked. There was you could actually see, I think, some snow in this. The one thing I like too in this is I like how they set up their little radio in this, and the other radio is smashed. It's a cliche in horror, but it's always fun to see. And another thing, inside the house, I was not expecting that much chaos when I first watched this movie. What did you guys think?
Having a basement is always de rigueur in a horror film, and they had one. That adds to the chaos. I mean, a possible escape route, a possible place to be in close, to fight werewolves, all that sort of thing. So yeah, and it's old, and it's so like floorboards crash in, and all this sort of thing that contributes to that kind of chaos.
Yeah, and it's also, you've got these soldiers who are not expecting, one, they're not expecting werewolves because nobody expects werewolves.
No,
but they're also not expecting to be in real combat. They're expecting, so you need the chaos of, not only is there a threat, which most soldiers I think would be able to handle with some ease, but they're trying to fortify in order to stay safe. Plus they're dealing with the threat that is, that there's, they're dealing with werewolves, which is totally, I don't think they teach that in military training, except when Liam Cunningham says, oh yeah, our mission was to capture a werewolf because we want to use one as a weapon.
Right.
Yeah, that's straight. That is straight the plot from Predator 2. It is. I mean, this movie does sort of borrow a bit, but well, I got to give credit where credit's due. Originally, when you watch the first Alien, that's sort of the plot of the first Alien. The crew is expendable as long as the creature is alive. Which from what we can tell, the creature is unkillable. In Predator 2, it's Gary Busey's character, who at that time was fresh from a motorcycle accident that killed him. So
you're saying Gary Busey is a zombie?
Yeah, in Predator 2, he is.
Look at that one eye. That's kind of.
Well, Predator 2 was his first film back, I think, from the motorcycle.
Yeah, from his near-death experience.
Yeah, and so his character is a CIA operative, basically, who's trying to capture the Predator for the government. It goes really, really south, as you guys know. And this here goes really, really south too.
Yes.
In every way possible. I love the firefight in the woods. It's on par with Predator, if not a tad better, because the soldiers are making the actors, I should say, are making really good movements as playing soldiers or special ops. What did you guys think of the cool firefight we got?
What a loaded question. Because if we didn't like it, you'd be like, oh, well, you know. I mean, it was a great firefight, Joel, but that was a very loaded question. I mean, I wish Patrick were here so he could really rip you a new one, because that was such a loaded question.
Of course, it's a loaded question.
Lucky for you, I think we both enjoyed that firefight and the camera work and everything else. It was pretty.
This is a podcast that's always fully loaded with stuff, especially questions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're loaded with a lot of stuff, Joel. I will give you that.
Yes.
For sure.
A lot of things. Yes.
Oh my God.
Stuff.
Oh my God. So this film won an award in 2002. The film won the Brussels International Festival of Fantasy Films Golden Raven, the festival's top award, as well as the audience prize, the Pegasus. So that was really cool. It hit home media, was released on DVD in the US in November of 2002 by 20th Century Fox. So it was put on Blu-ray in 2009. So this film, I've seen it on sale for Blu-ray. I need to buy this. Uh, guys, with the cool werewolf effects, they say animatronics, but it looked really good for animatronics. What did you guys think?
Well, the fact that I didn't notice any animatronics.
That's what I
think
thought.
some close-up stuff where the mouth was moving and things. I think that was maybe where the basic animatronics were used.
Yeah.
I don't think it was super sophisticated stuff, but there was definitely some head stuff that was in close-ups that looked like it was, not an actor. But it was good. I mean, it worked well, especially in the lighting. I like the fact that the werewolves themselves sort of looked very sort of primitive. They look like what tribal representations of elemental masks, which are much larger than the body. I'm talking, ancient traditions. I like that it just had a feel of something old, something also something not of nature, but yet supernatural at the same time. And it also made their bodies look elongated when there were actual actors inside of them, which was kind of cool.
Gordon.
Yeah, I think the werewolf costumes were really powerful because you're not, especially being filmed in like relatively shades of darkness. That really gave them a real sense of sleekness and power that, had the lighting been that much brighter, I think would have spoiled the atmosphere. And I think there's a real kind of, there's also a brutality to them, which is, I think, I'm not used to it in a werewolf film. I'm not complaining. It's just, it's good that it has that, because you have to match the, if you have like, army people, you kind of want your werewolves to be a little bit more brutal. You don't want polite werewolves.
No, and it makes sense. It makes it make more sense when the army people get really scared and desperate, because this is a force that just keeps coming and keeps coming. I think we get the idea that Silver does affect them when he stabs him with the little ceremonial knife there at one point, and so they're kind of following some of the rules.
Yeah.
That you commonly have for these sorts of things.
Yeah, the regular bullets don't affect them.
It just
kind of Silver does.
I think they hurt them, but they don't.
Yeah, they don't kill them. They may slow them down some. Yeah. A lot of werewolves follow the silver bullet policy, the Howling. Now, one film that doesn't, and that is An American Werewolf in London, which they don't, because the police shoot the werewolf, and they don't use silver. They just use regular bullets, which the ending of that movie is really interesting because you can sort of debate, does the werewolf recognize the woman as the male counterpart? But this movie, I like how the woman's like, what's her line? Like something, it's that time of month, and she's turning.
Yes, it was like, there was some black humor in it, no doubt, and that was one of them. With it, where one of the werewolves coming up from behind her, and her eyes are turning yellow, and it's that time of the month kind of thing. Yeah. That definitely was a bit of black humor there, no doubt. And I noticed they didn't waste any time dispatching her, though. They went ahead and said, before you change, we're going to put a bullet in your head. You never saw her again. So I'm wondering whether or not she actually got killed because she was human, or at least mostly human, when they actually shot her. That would be an interesting thing to figure out.
Yeah, that's a nice little cliffhanger to leave, too. Like, we're not sure if they killed her, but hey,
Yeah, they took her out temporarily, at least, for sure. But then again, we're not sure what's going to happen to, the lone survivor. He got bit. We don't know. I mean, we know that that's probably going to mean the next full moon, but what's going to become of him? He just walks out. He's a survivor. So,
Gordon, what do you think?
I think I don't remember seeing him get bit, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, you know what? It was kind of murky. I mean, he was kind of bloody and stuff when he came out of there, and there was a lot of this sort of close combat. You might be right. And maybe they just kind of.
I do think it's interesting that they kind of ended with him talking about werewolves killed my platoon in a British tabloid, which kind of it's kind of your shortcut of he went through all this and nobody's ever going to believe him.
Right.
So, Gordon, buddy, I gotta ask you a question. How should this movie have been have created the franchise?
No.
No, I think it's a good standalone.
Yeah,
and there are a lot of. I mean, there's been so many werewolf movies that have been great standalone movies, and I think American Werewolf in London would have been better if they hadn't done American Werewolf in Paris. You know, and although it's not a terrible movie by any stretch of the imagination, but the first one's much more impactful. Just is.
I think American Werewolf in Paris. I had seen that right after, like not too long after I had seen London, and I told my brother this when we saw it. I said, "Listen to me." I said, "I'm not saying the movie doesn't have horror; it does, but it's more built for teenage comedy too."
Sure. And it doesn't have the impact that the first one has because we've already been through that, you know.
Yeah, and besides which, you know, nobody likes French people, so why would you do a werewolf movie in Paris unless you're killing French people?
You know what made that movie? What's the group? I forget the group's name. Bush. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Their songs made that soundtrack. So, oh my god.
There were a ton of werewolf movies that came out though in the 20 years preceding this one. I mean, we had American Werewolf in London, we had Wolfen, we had Wolf with Jack Nicholson, which is an interesting werewolf movie. It's as much psychological as it is supernatural.
Yeah, it is.
And we had The Howling, which was an excellent movie.
Came out in 1980.
Yeah, I mean, there was a ton of stuff, and it was all pretty good, you know.
The Howling sequels are a trip and a half.
Oh yes, I've seen a couple of them. They get a little out there. They get a little out there.
They do. But they're fun to watch. I enjoyed the first movie to pieces. The sequels are fun to watch.
And then there's Ginger Snaps is
Ginger Snaps.
This is in the tradition of a good werewolf movie. I think it's a fine werewolf movie. So
yeah. What did you think, Gord?
I think this is a great standalone movie. I love this movie.
Yeah, this movie gets a straight 10 for me. It's a lot of fun. It's just a movie that you can sit down and watch and enjoy the hell out of. You don't have to take it too crazy seriously, but it's just a fun movie to watch.
And it's available to watch on demand on Pluto TV. So you have no excuse.
Or you could just be like my ass eventually. I'm going to go buy the Blu-ray because I have a ton of Blu-rays in my Walmart cart, and I think I might go add it in there.
Yeah, go for it.
Get yelled at by my wife. If you don't see me in a week, you know something happened.
Okay.
Put that out there now.
Hopefully, it doesn't involve any sharp objects.
There'll be please. Yes, do you know this Joel Saints person? No, I was never on this podcast. I don't know who that is. That's what that'll be. What's you guys' favorite werewolf movie, Gordon?
You know, when I was younger, I would say An American Werewolf in London, but I think now I'd have to say the Benicio del Toro Wolfman, the remake.
I'll totally agree with that. Before that one, it was a toss-up between American Werewolf in London and Werewolf of London, which is a more classic sort of, Universal style, late Universal style horror film, even though it's not Universal. So yeah, definitely Benicio del Toro. That was the one remake of the Universal horror films that worked. Mm-hmm. The Mummy stunk because Tom Cruise had to take it over, basically. Anything he does, he takes over. I liked the actress that played the mummy. She was pretty cool, but I didn't like the movie. And they tried to franchise in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in that movie as well, and it was not up to the standards of the original, I didn't think. But I did really enjoy The Wolfman with Benicio del Toro. He acted it with the appropriate sort of contrast between this guy who is helpless before himself and then the monster that he becomes, and his father, who loves being the monster. I mean, it's like, what a contrast.
That's the only, out of all the things of the Wolfman remake, that's the only thing I didn't like, because as soon as I saw it, and I love Anthony Hopkins to pieces.
You didn't like the fact he was kind of the source of the evil of the whole family?
It's predictable.
Yeah.
It's predictable because who's playing him? Anthony Hopkins. I love Anthony Hopkins, but when you put him in the title role of father of the son, you know why he's there. Like, come on now, he's not there for nothing.
It's very different from the original Wolfman, where
it is for sure. I give you that.
Yeah, his father is like a pillar of morality in the original. So,
because what I love most about that movie is what they do with the insane asylum stuff. Because the dude was in an asylum before. It's like, that's because that is night and day different from the original there.
It is, and it's very creative, and it is a very well done scene. The build in that scene is excellent.
Yeah. Mine's obviously The Howling. I've always enjoyed that. So, just the stalker mentality that is fucking.
Yeah. Which is the hunting.
You're getting payphone calls from a werewolf. It's like,
yeah.
Jesus Christ. Why? And that's the funny thing too, because I remember growing up and payphones were like this big thing, and like I remember there was this payphone across from Everly Park, and right there, it's like I kept thinking about, what if somebody just called you and they were a werewolf or whatever. I always thought that as a kid growing up, but I have an overactive imagination too. So yeah, what do you guys give this? 1 out of 10?
I'll give it a 9.5 to a 10.
Yeah, I'll give it a 9.5 as well.
So Gordon, you ready for Return of the Living Dead tomorrow night?
Oh, I am. I saw this movie when it first came out, Joel.
That's a good movie.
So none of your shenanigans, okay? Maybe Patrick will let you get away with that stuff, but not me, okay? Because you're going a little, I'm concerned about you, and I'm sure Julie's concerned about you.
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of characters in that movie that are really, really interesting. That's for sure. Can't wait to cover it tomorrow. So, is there anything you guys want to add before we go about Dog Soldiers?
It's a nice twist on a werewolf movie. It's really, I mean, it does have conceptual connections to all the other movies that we talked about, which is kind of interesting too. But it has its own take on those things. It doesn't doesn't just replicate or rip off things. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's a really good, enjoyable film. Watch it, enjoy the werewolves. Get to see a couple of guys from Game of Thrones do different stuff. You'll dig it.
Yeah, just kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, since we're talking about the remake of the Wolfman, watch Dracula Untold too. It's really good. All right, guys, thank you first of all for joining me tonight. This was a lot of fun. Links to Gord Dymowski's Amazon page is going to be in the description box. Links to Alan Gallant's YouTube channel, Colin Support After Dark, is going to be in the description box. I'll see you tomorrow night, Gordon.
See you tomorrow.